I love Mess. Mess loves me. Me and Mess are trying on contemporary dreams. Mess is an authority on current events, and we are not that jealous of our former college friends whose careers are going great and their bands are blowing up and their coffee overfloweth from their thrifted coffee mug. We are radically transparent as transparent can be. We are reading you the screenplay of our new wave masterpiece. Thrifting from the sand, thrifting from the bank, dispassionately vaping while I water the plants. I am continuing to do my thing.
Left, right.
I am continuing to do my thing.
Yes, those are words to live by, are they not? Let us, each of one of us, continue to do his or her their thing. And I think the world will be fine. It could also just be a path to fiery destruction of the world. So we don't know. So much we don't know. All right, so here's the deal. This is a Ask or Tell Me Anything show. That means there are no guests. There are no pre-planned topics. All there is a phone number. The phone number is 888-720-9677. That's 888-720-WNPR. Anyone may call in. And today, for the first time, that includes frozen embryos. I guess you have to be a frozen embryo in Alabama, though. That's the only place frozen embryos are people that we know, that legally, anyway. Anyway, you can call about any topic you want. And speaking of frozen, here's Anthony in New Haven. Hi, Anthony.
Hey, Colin. Love your show. Fourth-time caller. So my question is, let me preface this by saying that I am a transplant. I grew up in New Orleans and lived in Florida. I moved up here, and I thought that I had adapted pretty well to the cold. Mm-hmm. I really prided myself on having a tolerance for the cold. I never let it stop me from taking my dog for a walk, whether it was, 15 degrees or 50 degrees. And I do a lot of walking as well, so it's never changed what I do. But here's the thing. So about 3 weeks ago, I was listening to this station, and the meteorologist came on, and it was a day in the low 40s. It was sunny, and he said, it's a great day to go out for a walk. Now, this really kind of stunned me because, like I said, a low day in the 40s, a sunny day in the low 40s has never stopped me from going for a walk. But I've never thought of it as a great day for a walk. So I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I would really like to not only tolerate the cold, as I've done, but to really embrace it. And I was hoping as a lifelong New Englander, you could give me some advice on how to learn to love the cold.
Yeah, in some ways, and this is begging the question, the old kind of philosophical begging the question, the answer feels contained in your question. I mean, the way to embrace the cold is to embrace the cold. The way first of all, we have to divide this question into its many parts. Some of this is obviously dependent on the philosophy of Garrett Argianis, the meteorologist you heard, and his meditations are now published and available for perusal. But so I think what Garrett would say, if he were here, if I dare speak for him, is that, everything's relative. And so in the middle of a bleak midwinter, and you've got some days that are in the 20s and nights that are in the teens, and then 40 starts looking pretty good. And I'm sure that's sort of how he looked at it. But I guess I would also say this, and this may not help you at all, but this is in fact something I've thought about. I feel like if you dress appropriately, a lot of people who are unhappy to be out in the cold are unhappy to be out in the cold because they're not wearing the right things. You sort of need, like I have 3 stages of gloves. I've got the kind of really lightweight gloves. It's like 45. Maybe maybe it's even high 40s. Still maybe need gloves on, but not much, and then it's like get more hardcore, and then Ice Station Zebra, True Detective Night Country gloves, so that, I can go out on the ice and battle monsters. So it's like that, you want to have the right gloves, the right hats. And once again, I have several stages of hat. As a transplant from Florida, this might take you a little while to sort of build up your reservoir, but when you have like the right stuff and you can put it all on, and then you go out, there's sort of a good feeling about that. It's like, yes, it's cold, but it's not bothering me. Come on, do your worst, Mr. Cold. I feel pretty good. So it's attitude and equipment. I don't know what else there is really. It may be something to look forward to when you get back in the house. Something hot or something. Depends what time of day it is, I guess. If it's after 5 o'clock, there's a lot of things you can do when you get back in to make yourself feel better. And I would also like to point out, since you lived in Florida for a while, there are no alligators here. I mean, you go out. I mean, you got to look at the things that you got away from too. Water moccasins, alligators, stuff like that, which were part of your daily life in Florida, I'm sure. And I don't know, is this helpful at all?
It is helpful. I think you're right. I think I do have the right clothes. In fact, I was actually telling my wife this morning, because I wear thermal socks every day. I wear a thermal top. I haven't done that in years past, and I was sort of wondering or sort of guessing that most people actually don't wear those things on a daily basis, and I was kind of wondering why. So I think a big part of it is having the right clothes. In terms of attitude, I've tried to sort of take that attitude of, when it really drops, when it drops into the teens, the single digits, kind of have this attitude of, do your worst, bring it on. I think I can take it.
You're going to be fine. You're going to do fine here. Everything you're saying tells me yes. And let me just say the one thing about the clothes too, which it is sort of like, I don't play golf, but I assume some of the satisfaction of playing golf is making a correct decision about like whether to use the 7-iron or not. I mean, if there is such a thing, let's assume there is such a thing as a 7-iron. So, you look around in your bag, you go, oh yeah, this is the perfect thing that I'm going to use to hit this particular ball in this particular place to that other particular place. And I think like picking out, like, are you going to wear the kind of insane, Marge Gunderson, Fargo kind of hat? Is it that cold that you're going to dress like Frances McDormand? I mean, in terms of headgear anyway. I find anyway, just deciding and making sure I've got the right things. I think I get a little thrill out of that, Anthony.
And it's funny that you say that, because the other thing that my wife and I were talking about this morning is that, it's a little comical when you see those people who have their gloves and hats on when it's 60 degrees. You get that unusual day where it's 60. And it seems that a lot of people, once the cold sets in, they're wearing their gloves and their hats and their snowshoes, whether it's 60 or 6. And there's nothing that will change their mind.
They're missing out on so much fun, just to picking out the right things. Yes, my son and I, for many years, would go on what we called the 60-degree vacation, which is like in the winter. We wouldn't go to, Puerto Rico. We would just go someplace where it was 60, because that feels pretty good, We're like, go to Sedona in February. It's 60 degrees. That's nice. Well, anyway, I think you're going to be fine. I have some alarming news about crocodiles that I will be announcing a little while. And I know crocodiles are not alligators. Crocodiles, I think, are not in Florida. But when you hear the news that I announce in a few seconds, Anthony, you'll be, yet again happy. Here comes somebody. Apparently, we're going to up the ante here a little bit here. Before we do that, let me remind you that the numbers to call today are 888. There's only one number, actually. 888-720-9677, which can also be rendered as 888-720-WNPR. We are about to take another call about the cold, but we are not confining ourselves to talking about the cold today. We can talk about just about anything. I'm really excited, too. We're in our new studio with a new phone system and a new set. I'm sitting on a set. Sets in radio, typically not that important, but it's very lavishly decorated. And I just want you to know that as subtext. All right. Joining us now is going to be Gear. And Gear knows from cold in a way that somebody in New Haven never will. Hi, Gear. You have the floor.
Thank you, Colin, for taking my call. I love your conversation. I heard what the gentleman was asking about how to enjoy the cold.
Yeah.
I mean, there are ways of doing it. And the first thing, you mentioned it, you got to dress for the weather. And there are two things. Your feet are your body's thermostat. And then your head is where your heat escapes. Mm-hmm. I'll walk around town in the middle of winter just in a T-shirt, but that's because I got my feet covered and my head covered. The rest can take care of itself. And then there's something about when you go out in that cold and you come back into the warmth, you have that sort of, the hot chocolate, and you start feeling that heat coming. There are some endorphins that are released when you get back in, and so it feels fresh. You feel alive, and you feel awake. So, yeah, I just loved what you guys were talking about. I thought that you guys should know from somebody that was born and raised in Iceland how we do it, and that's the trick. Really, is just dress properly, Colin.
I totally agree, and it would be horrible to bring up Denmark in a conversation with the person from Iceland because they're like, who needs Denmark? But they do have that word, that Hygge, which I'm never quite sure how to pronounce. But it's all about what you just described. It's about being comfortable when you're cold, but also maybe inside and cozy. And there's, it's a set of feelings you can't really have if cold weather isn't part of the equation. So, so I think we have to be happy about that. We need to do a show from Iceland. I'm fascinated. I've never been there, but I'm fascinated by it.
Oh, I was happy to take you there anytime.
All right, so we got you on board. All we have to do is get a lot of money, and we'll be fine. Yes, I mean, listening to a lot of Icelandic music. I mean, sort of contemporary classical Icelandic music, which by now, because of tar and stuff like that, I think people get that there's a whole thing going on there. And I've been trying to learn more about it. And one thing that the composers say is, we can try anything. We can try anything here. It's Iceland, by which I think they mean, like if you do something that's a little bit weird, you're not at the New York. You're not at Carnegie Hall. You're not.
That's right.
You can see you can go a little nuts, and I like that attitude too. So we belong in Iceland. This show does. All right. Well, thanks for your call, Geert. Great to talk to you. We're going to take another call here because that's what we do. Oh, I have to announce the news about crocodiles. I think it can wait though. If you're in the vicinity of a crocodile. If you're in the vicinity of a crocodile right now, you should understand that it can probably run faster than you think it can. But I'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a second. Nancy wants to talk about something else. Hi, Nancy. Nancy's in Canton. Hi.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. For years, this has been bugging me, and I'm wondering if my memory isn't serving me well. Our public schools are always struggling for money. And as I recall, the casinos were sold to us, if you know what I mean, by promising that all the state's revenue, which was considerable, from the casinos would go to the schools. What happened? Schools get none of it.
Wait, okay, so let me just set the stage here a little bit. I'm working from memory, too, and I may get stuff wrong, and if I do, maybe somebody else will call it. So here's what I remember about it. First of all, the casinos were going to happen anyway because of a law on our books and a court interpretation of that law. We were going to have casinos. And so Lowell Weicker and some very smart people within his administration were trying, and Lowell Weicker was opposed to casinos. Nothing he could do about it. I mean, in other words, Native American tribes were going to be able to have casinos.
Yeah, I understand that.
So nothing to do to stop it. So he sent some smart lawyers down there, and it was like Bob Warner and maybe Stanley Tuerty, and I can't remember who did this. But anyway, sends the smart lawyers, and they work out this thing where it's exclusivity for slots, basically, as I recall it anyway. The casinos will be the only place that can have video slots, and that'll be guaranteed, and all this kind of stuff. And in return for which, yes, some percentage of the floor gets designated to go into the Connecticut General Fund to be used for education. And I think what happened was, over time, it just went into the general fund. And then went wherever.
That's my other annoyance.
Yeah. I think that's what happened. My recollection is, I haven't thought about this for a few years, but my recollection is that, first of all, I don't think there was really a mechanism, an accounting mechanism. This is a Keith Phaneuf kind of thing, just to have it go directly to education, have to go to the general fund and then be allocated for education. But look, the legislature, and to a certain degree, the executive branch, but especially the Connecticut General Assembly, which I have some deep familiarity with. I mean, they're like a drunk uncle with a gambling problem. It's just like you don't want to leave your allowance lying around. You don't want them to know the combination of your little bank up in your room. You're an 8-year-old kid, because they will take it and they will either blow it on whiskey or the horses or both. And so, I mean, I think that's just the other reality that when we think about dealing with the government, when we think about that kind of thing, they have good intentions, but then there's like all this other stuff that they need money for. So anyway, the other thing about this is, the last time I knew, I haven't looked at these numbers in a long time, the floor was falling. So this was sort of a goose that is very, like most geese, they lay a lot of eggs at first, and then they get older and older, and then they just poop out like one egg every once in a while. And this goose has not been laying as many golden eggs either. So even if this whole thing had held together, my guess is, you wouldn't be getting whatever it is that you really hope the schools would be getting. So anyway.
Wow, it sounds like you're defending them.
No, I'm not really defending them.
It bothers me to know, and this general fund, come on, this is a state. We ought to be able to have some control over this.
Yeah, well...
Or am I naive?
You said that you're naive. You're a little optimistic, which is different from being naive. Yeah. Assume,
It's good in the long run, but
right.
for these issues, I guess not.
Yeah, no, bet on the second law of thermodynamics when you're looking at a thing like this. It's just going to, descend into chaos pretty quickly. All right, so I'm looking around. I'm just trying to figure out. It is weird being, this is our third show in the studio, the first time I've done the call show here. And you just once in a while I look up and I think, where am I exactly? And there's this kind of harsh gynecological lighting here too. Like I'm going to have some kind of pelvic exam. It's like there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, these big huge lights on me. All right, here we go. The number I should give out the number again, and we're going to go to Eric in just a second here. But you think I have the number memorized by now? 888-720-9677. That's 888-720-WNPR. You could call up about just about anything, and people do. So let's talk to Eric right now. Hi, Eric in Cheshire. Hi, Eric.
Hi, Colin. I'm calling. I was just listening to your the beginning of your broadcast today, and someone called from Florida regarding difficulty adjusting with temperature adjustment.
Yeah. A slight correction. He's a Florida transplant. He was in Florida. Now he lives here.
Oh, okay. Well, correct. I study primitive survival skills, like the ones that we would see on the television program Naked and Afraid.
Yes.
And
that was, by the way, my prom theme in high school. Anyway, continue.
Okay. Well. Anyway, I had taken some workshops in New Jersey. And had gone on some short outdoor living kinds of adventures. And the instructor told me that you really need to, the metabolism, our metabolism, which produces our body heat, adjusts to the outside temperature. So if you've been in Florida, okay, where the temperature is higher, or even indoors a lot where the temperature is higher, then your metabolic rate is going to slow down and your body is not going to produce as much heat. As far as clothing is concerned, really the body heat is the most important thing, because all the insulation in the world won't do us any good unless our bodies are producing enough heat for that insulation to trap. So what I like to do personally is underdress just enough to make myself feel slightly uncomfortable or moderately uncomfortable, so that my metabolism adjusts and my body's producing heat. And also exercise, especially weight training or weight-bearing exercises involving the large muscles like the legs and the buttocks, which produce the most heat through contraction. And also on windy days, particularly, because it's the wind that really makes people feel cold, because it basically blows the body heat away from our skin. So you need some kind of windproof outer shell.
See, now I feel like we're scaring Anthony. It's like too much now. But I totally agree with everything you said. Body heat is the key. I often bring with me a picture of Kathleen Turner in her prime, just in case my body heat starts to, be not what it needs to be. But this is all good advice from somebody who has studied survival and who knows how to get through. I mean, I just feel like it's Connecticut. There's climate change. It's just not really ever that cold. But maybe I'm wrong. In any case, we have to take a little break. We will take that little break. When we come back, we will take your phone calls at 888-720-9677. I like the idea of Cambridge Analytica being somewhere there in the meter of that song. All right, so we have Jill from Colchester, and we have lots of room for other people to call up if they want to, and the number is 888-720-9677. That's 888-720-WNPR if you're into the whole alphanumeric thing. Before I talk to Jill, I have to bring this up. So there's a Twitter account, an X account that I like. It's called Massimo, Massimo. And they have sort of, I don't really know who the person is, but they have little oddities of science and things. And so over the weekend on Massimo, there was a video posted, and the text said, researchers have found that more species of crocodile can gallop than previously thought, and they are fast. And so the video shows a crocodile. Disturbingly, the video shows a crocodile in a ring with a person, like a horse racing track or something, which this is never explained. But we do see the crocodile attempt to run fast. And I think by gallop, I think what they mean is that it is clear that the crocodile has moments where its front feet are off the ground, but are coming back down towards the ground. But really before, this might be impossible in terms of physics, but this is how it appears. Before those front feet fully contact the ground, the rear feet are coming off the ground. So the crocodile for brief moments is completely off the ground and, it's moving pretty fast. What bothers me about this, setting aside the fact that I don't understand why there would be a person in a ring with a crocodile who could gallop, and the crocodile does run after the person. The crocodile seems to kind of give up pretty quickly, and there are people, you could just sort of see on the outskirts of this or in the outer edges, there are people watching. Like people lined up along the rail, kind of like, let's see how this goes. Is this some kind of sport somewhere? Because it shouldn't be. But anyway, that's not my point. My point is, why would this be something we're just finding out? It seems to me that like from the moment Homo sapiens became the least bit sapient, I would say like the top 25 questions, one of them would be, how fast can crocodiles go? Right? I mean, like I would just want to know that way before, I don't know, the heliocentric universe or something. It just seems like, particularly in our early days, maybe it's something we knew and we forgot. Because I just feel like we shouldn't be, it's 2024, we're just finding out crocodiles can gallop. I just feel like it should be part of the compendium of human wisdom dating back for millennia. Anyway, you could just, if you don't believe me, go to X, formerly known as Twitter, and go to the Massimo account, Massimo, and see. It's actually, I think, was sitting within the account of something else, like called Gator World or something. But anyway, that's all. That's all. I just needed to get that off my chest. All right, so here we go. We're going to talk to Jill in Colchester. I haven't messed up the new phone system yet. Knock on table. We also have a very evil table that I sit at now. Here's Jill in Colchester. Hi.
Good afternoon. You made me laugh.
Oh, good.
First of all, what I was calling about is, do you remember the old cheese and stuff?
Yes, I do. I do remember the old cheese and stuff with great fondness.
And that it was so wonderful, and you could go in there and buy things, and you wouldn't come out spending $100 bazillion.
No, it was a different time. It was a different time. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to think about it as relative to now.
Right.
And I just thought of it because I'm thinking about I went to Whole Foods and I got like 5 things and it cost like $85.
Oh, they must have been on sale.
Right, exactly. But then I went to Trader Joe's and I got cheese and a bunch of like yogurt and a bunch of other things in a bag that I was hardly able to carry, and it cost like $35.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is sort of apples and oranges, almost literally. Whole Foods and Trader Joe's.
Really?
Let me just sort of, for people who don't know, Cheese and Stuff was an independent store back in the days when you called things a health food store. So, but it was a health food store that was really a grocery store, and it just had, because it wasn't part of a chain or anything, there was a sense of serendipity in terms of what you found there. You would find things you weren't expecting, and it was nice. It had it started out, I think, over maybe on Sisson Avenue and then moved over to Farmington Avenue. And so good. My memory is intact. I will say this. So you're in Colchester. Is that where you are? You're Colchester. So when you go to...
Yeah, but I just was in Hartford. Oh. I was just in Hartford, and then I went to Glastonbury.
Oh, so I've discovered the Glastonbury Trader Joe's is really... I think it might be built on some kind of positive energy vortex or something.
Fabulous, yes.
It's really great. And so I come there. My reason that I go to Glastonbury, once a week I see my therapist in Glastonbury. And then her office is very near Cheese and Stuff. And so when I come out, first of all, usually if therapy is working, when you come out, you feel karmically lighter than when you went in, right?
Mm-hmm.
The kind of,
I got it.
The fate that was oppressing you when you went in, if you're having a successful relationship with therapy, you feel a little bit airier, you feel like you could probably get away from a reasonably fast crocodile, just because you're light as a feather. So I go from there in this state of relative bliss into Trader Joe's, and it's such a nice Trader Joe's that my happiness continues. I strike up conversations with total strangers. I typically don't even strike up conversations with people I know fairly well. So this is how altered my state is. But I really feel that's a really good place. It could be that I just feel better because I've just been to therapy. But I feel the Trader Joe's. Whereas the one up in Corbin's Corner, which is either in West Hartford or New Britain or whatever, it's too crowded and there are zombies. Yeah. And that's horrible when you're just like picking out something really nice and a zombie comes and bites you. It could wreck the whole thing. Okay, so... all right, well, let's go to Liz first so I can prepare myself for then they all have different colors and everything. That's so nice as well. So this is Liz calling from Meriden. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Colin. I really like how you pick music. I find out about new music, and I've never been good at, I don't listen to music on the radio. I listen to you guys. So I want to know a lot about your ways of picking music. One, you probably have a lot that you already know. But also I wanted to ask about, there's Pandora and there's Apple and there's and Spotify. And I don't know if you're allowed to talk about all those, but...
We can talk about whatever we want to talk about.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to know about if you use any of those and which ones and why.
Right. So, yes, I can be of help, I think. First of all, I will say this. We were doing a show about, I can't remember what the show was about. This is quite a few years ago. But I asked my producers at a meeting whether they considered me to be, I think, a control freak, maybe was the term I used. And there was a little pause, and then Jonathan McMahon said, well, only about the music. And that is true that I regard the music that we use on the show as really important. I also very much like being the person who picks it out. I always say the happiest part of my day is when I'm picking out music for the show. It is sort of a little different with each producer. Lily Tyson doesn't want to be involved in picking out music at all. And Pants likes to pick out his own music typically, unless he's a little bit stumped with something. And then with McCusker, the Wonder Kid, and her bad cat Penelope, I often find myself in these little odd little tugs of war where she'll have an interesting idea and I'll have an interesting idea. And I actually find that enjoyable too. There's a little bit of a Hegelian quality to what we arrive at. But in terms of the structural questions you're asking about, so I use a music service, a streaming music service, not unlike Spotify. It's called Tidal, Tidal. And it's run by these two lovely people. It's a family business. It's run by these two lovely people named the Carters, Mr. and Mrs. Carter. Believe his first name is J, and the middle initial is Z, and then his wife's name Beyonce, and just lovely people. And they run this thing. They might have sold it by now, but anyway, it just happens to be what I use. And so, I think we're living in a time where you can discover music. I mean, algorithms are a little bit scary. They're a little bit manipulative. We give them too much control in our lives. I grant you all of those things. But I also think algorithms, as they are used in Spotify or on Tidal, can be incredibly helpful too, just in terms of just throwing some stuff up in front of you. Like Tidal has something called My Daily Discovery. This is sort of often kind of older stuff, but stuff that I might like. They also have a thing called New Arrivals, which is stuff that has just been released, and maybe it kind of conforms to some of the things that I like. I mean, the algorithm, it makes a lot of assumptions about you, and you've got to go beyond that too. But, your opportunity to discover an artist that you never would have heard of any other way. It's like being in one of those really good record stores where they're playing stuff on the turntable that is interesting, and you go over to the cash register. This used to be a big thing, and say, what is that? And then you wind up buying it. Except that it's like that all the time. I like this part of modern technology that we can have so much access. But the way that you get that access, of course, is through engagement with the algorithm. You've got to make it clear initially. You build playlists and stuff like that, and you pick out songs, and you start to realize what you like, and then it starts to realize what you like. And then it comes eventually and drains the life force out of us. But that'll be another 10, 20 years. So I don't know if that was any help to you at all.
So you said Daily Discovery and something.
Oh, New Arrivals. Yeah, that's all within Tidal.
New Arrivals.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, the other thing that we do with the music is we try not to have the music be too on the nose. In other words, we always feel really good if since I suggested that Lily Tyson doesn't really want to be helpful about the music, I should give an instance of her. We were doing a show or a segment about gas stoves, because there's this whole idea that gas stoves are bad for the environment and you shouldn't have them and all this stuff. And she suggested the song Ring of Fire, the Johnny Cash Carter family song, other Carter family. And I thought that was brilliant. That's just like, there's probably a song called Gas Stove, but Ring of Fire is even better. So we do like our music very much, and I'm glad you like it too, Liz.
Right. So then when you have a topic going on, do you just search the topic, music about, because you always have the music matching the topic? Yeah,
some of it is just really thinking about it. Like I do know a lot of songs. I love music, and one of our rules here is one of my rules is that basically we're operating from about 1924 to 2024. In other words, any music released in that 100-year span is all interesting to us. And I do listen to a lot, and I know a lot of old music. So, just finding a song that's just perfect is a really good feeling. And sometimes you just do it out of your head, and sometimes you might wind up typing some stuff into the search bar. You don't, once again, if you're doing a show about the lesser of two evils, you don't want to just type in the lesser of two evils, because then you might get a song called the lesser of two evils, but that's not really what you're looking for. So that's a show we're doing Wednesday, and that's a process that I will be engaging in, trying to figure out what kind of songs go with the concept lesser of two evils.
Okay.
So
Well, I'll listen and find out.
Yeah, you'll be able to find out what we come up with. But thank you so much for your call and for being interested in that. It is something that we do take a certain amount of pride about. So I'm looking at the time. Charlie from Glastonbury is on the line. Somebody else is as well. But I am going to suggest we go to a break. 888-720-9677. That is the number to call. We will be back.
You let me violate you. You let me desecrate you. You let me penetrate you. You let me complicate you. I broke apart my insides. I got no soul to sell. The only thing that works for me.
All episodes of The Colin McEnroe Show are available 24/7 at ctpublic.org/Colin, which is also where you can sign up for our delightful free fortnightly newsletter, The Noseletter. You can listen to any episode on any podcast app. Have a question or comment? Email us at colinshow@ctpublic.org. Now, back to the show.
Thank you, Sabrina, and thanks to everybody who worked on the show today. I can't really tell. I think the maestro, Dylan Reyes, is mainly the technical producer, but I thought I heard Kat earlier as well, so I'm confused. Maybe everybody's working on the show today. Also, Eugene Amatruda, of course, making everything work out in a much more mega engineering sense. And then Jonathan McPants is the producer of this episode. He's the person screening the calls, and maybe screaming because of the calls. And all of that is wonderful as well. We've got some calls on the board here. Our number is 888-720-9677. And now we will go to Charlie in Glastonbury. Here's Charlie. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Colin. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
This is a segue into Glastonbury, but it's not about Trader Joe's.
Okay.
Glastonbury is your typical suburb, I guess, of Hartford, and we get a car stolen. We get cars stolen from neighborhoods, and we get gas stations that get robbed. But you probably heard about this yesterday. There was gymnastics event here, and there was assault, and some people got violently hurt, and it kind of struck me. First, I felt like, wow, that happened here, That was my first inclination. And then I thought a little more about it, and I said to myself, am I losing my feeling of safety within the Glastonbury community? I'm very familiar with where this happened. My wife walks down on Main Street past the school where it happened. The athletic facility is inside Town Hall almost, and across the street from the police station. So I got to thinking, should I feel less safe in town? And then the other thing was I thought about, what about the communities where this happens all the time in the sense of it's not even news, maybe? And I'd like to hear your thoughts about that. Is how do we cope with this whole breakdown of people being able to act violently for what seems like inconsequential reasons? I don't know all the facts, and I also said to myself, thank God he didn't have a gun.
Right, exactly. So, the second part of what you said is the really important one, which is that we do become inured to the idea that life is cheaper in other places, and that violence and injury and sometimes violent death is kind of just priced into the lives of people other than ourselves. It's why when there's a case like the Doulos case, there's this incredible high focus on it, because these are people to whom this is kind of quote unquote not supposed to happen. Whereas the societal narrative is, if you live in an urban environment, if you're a person of color, if you're a person who's poor, you can maybe expect this kind of stuff to happen more often. This is not the way it should be. It's not the way we should think about it either. But I do see that as a little bit the way people do think about it. I think you're correct about that we just sort of assume it's going to happen in Bridgeport or Hartford or something. And we should never, it just shouldn't have to be part of anybody's reality. Now, to what little extent I know what happened in Glastonbury, it does appear, though, as though this was sort of an instance of passion. I believe it was his girlfriend's ex-husband, at least in the initial report, that who got stabbed by this man. It's a serious injury, too. I don't think there's anything Glastonbury about that. I think that kind of thing can happen anywhere. People people get crazy because of their personal lives and because of stuff that is not working out the way they want it to, and passions get out of control. I don't think there's anything Glastonbury about that. I think that can happen anywhere. It's why opera exists. So I wouldn't say that you're any less safe in Glastonbury today than you were 5 days ago. I think this is a one-off. I will say this, and I don't mean to say this in making light sense, because this thing that happened at this gymnastics meet or whatever it was, this is a very serious thing, and it's potentially a very tragic thing. I believe the victim is still in critical condition. But in the 1970s, my first real extended full-time job was as the Glastonbury reporter for the Hartford Courant, circa 1976, 76, 77. And I don't know whether it was me or it might have been Garrett Condon who was covering the town for the Middletown Press. But years later, when Twin Peaks came out, we sort of thought, oh, yeah, that's kind of the way Glastonbury is. It's sort of beautiful, but there's always kind of been an element of weirdness to Glastonbury. I think a higher percentage of strange things do happen in Glastonbury. I wouldn't necessarily lump this thing in there. I think this thing is just a tragedy that could have happened just about anywhere. But so I don't know. I don't think you should look at a thing like this and say, wow, my town isn't safe. You could look at a thing like this and say, and we should also say, go the Steven Pinker route here. Crime overall is down, at least longitudinally, looking at really long-term trends. Crime, violent crime, murder, things like that. I mean, it can oscillate a little bit, but basically I think we're becoming a less violent society slowly. We have too many guns, of course. And yes, so your other point, good thing it wasn't a gun. Very true. All right, so let's talk to Naeem in New London. Hi, you have the floor.
Yes, hi, Colin. Listen, my reason for calling is several years back, I think before the pandemic, you had a caller to call in, and he made a statement. He made a wrong statement about the demographics of those who listen to your show. He stated that only white people and no blacks or African Americans listen on your show, and I'm here to refute that. I'm sitting here with more than one black person, and we listen to your show religiously. So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, that makes me happy. Obviously, we want to do shows for everybody. Shows that, look, I think there is. I'm going to put you on hold because your phone's a little scratchy right now, but there's sort of a trope, right? Kind of a comedic trope. There used to be a blog or a Tumblr or something. I believe it was called Things White People Like. And public radio was always very near the top. And so there is that idea that public radio and white people have some kind of symbiotic relationship. And I think that idea is very out of date. First of all, like a lot of institutions in America, public radio took a long, hard look at itself over the last 10 years or so and realized that maybe it was a little, bit tilted that way. But I just think strides have been made. I mean, just in terms of the stuff that gets covered, the people who constitute the workforce here at CT Public and at the mothership at NPR. It's just a much more diverse workforce, and it therefore is likely to produce more diverse content. I think having Aisha Rasco hosting, Weekend Edition on Sundays is a pretty radical step in a lot of different ways, and one that I've very much enjoyed. So I think that idea is a little out of date. It's still around because, like a lot of ideas like that, it's going to stay around for a while. All right. So, but anyway, thanks. I'm so glad that you're listening. I will say that, I used to do commercial talk radio on a pretty conservative station, which did, for the most part, have a very white listenership and saw that as their target demographic. I mean, sort of not just that, but other things. And when Obama ran in 2008, I suddenly became aware that I had more black listeners because they felt included in the political process. And they felt they were very interested to see how this presidential election was going to come out. And they liked, in many ways, the way that we were covering it. And once again, some of the music we used to cover it or while we were covering it. So I think also when society changes, if media and press change to coordinate with how society is changing, that could be helpful as well. All right, so let's go to Mary Jane, and then we'll probably end with David. We'll see, though. But here is Mary Jane in North Stonington, cougar-infested North Stonington.
Oh, hi, Colin. I just wanted to recommend
wonderful website where you can get statistics called Statistica.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're writing reports, you just go in there and they've got graphs and it's gorgeous.
Isn't it Statista? I think it's
Statista. That's right.
Yeah.
Thanks for the correction. Because I just looked up, and in the last 2 years of World War II, the United States made 192 of those great big B-52 bombers and stuff. So we have Mr. Zelensky now. I think we should be able to get him ammunition, and that's what he said he needs. But that's my opinion. But I'm glad to plug a really good website, and I hope that Mr. Zelensky gets the weapons he needs.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Colin.
Okay. Call Mike Johnson. Tell him about Statista. Maybe you can look it up. Maybe he'll call the bill, but I doubt it. Here's David in Cheshire. Hi, David. Oh, I did. I was so good. I hadn't screwed up the phones once all day. Now I got you. Hi, David.
Okay. How are you, Colin?
I'm just fine.
Great. Before I get to my question, quick preface. Apropos those alligators, a little-known fact that Muybridge was going to use alligators for his famous shots, but they don't run well in the cold. That's why. Anyway, my question to you is about the timing of lunch on your show, because it's a well-known fact that judges give out lighter sentences after lunch. People tend to get angry when they are hungry. And I'm wondering how it affects your show. When do you eat lunch, and have you noticed any effect?
That's so interesting about the judges. I didn't know that. I know some judges too. I'm gonna bring that up with them. The person with whom I share a life, who shall not be named, would tell you that I take lunch very seriously. I mean, I take sort of 3 meals a day very seriously. There are different kinds of people, and I happen to share my life with a person who is a little bit on the indifferent side towards the schedule of eating and what gets eaten, and might regard a peanut butter and jelly sandwich as an adequate dinner. And to me, that just is horrifying. And I have time to say this too. So this may be a very boring thing, but I'm going to say it anyway. I grew up in a household where food was maybe not that important. My mother was a working mom, and she didn't like to cook, and so mealtime was mainly a time of resentment. But growing up, I started to read the Nero Wolfe mysteries. And Nero Wolfe was this genius guy. Rex Stout wrote these mysteries. He was this genius guy who lived in some, elegant apartment, brownstone or something in New York. I can't remember the details. But he had his own personal cook. And then his leg man, Archie Goodman, who was kind of a working class guy, had also learned about just great food. And so in these mystery novels, there'd be these moments where people talked about what was going to be for dinner. They'd stop in with Franz or Fritz or whatever his name was and find out whether there was going to be tarragon in the salad. And I thought, that's the way to live. That's the way to live. You should care about what you're going to eat. If I'm on vacation, I start thinking about dinner, when I get up in the morning. What am I going to have for dinner? Where are we going to go for dinner? And not everybody's like this. So with all of that said, yes, I do eat lunch before the show. I live roughly a 3 to 5 minute drive from this fine building. So it's easy enough. We had a little meeting at 11:30 here today to check out the new phones, make sure we knew how to use them. And then I went home and had lunch. I'm a big believer in lunch. And I am going to commute your sentence, David. You are a free man. You can go free because I had lunch and I'm in a good mood and I don't care what kind of horrible crime you committed with those alligators.